Hey, welcome back, knife nerds and everyday care people. It's your boy, the Big Canucker, and I am back after a little bit of drama. And wow, I have something here. It is called an idiot detector, and it goes off when it touches an idiot. See? Fuck. You're looking at an idiot here. The reason you're looking at an idiot is because I had a little bit of a trip to the hospital. And it's because of this little bugger right here. The Au-Sabot designed Bestech Tulip. And this little fine piece of cutlery put a gash in my leg about 3.5 inches and about an inch deep. And if anybody tells you that a 1.5 inch bladed knife isn't dangerous in the hand of an idiot, they're wrong. Because I am living proof for that. All right, so not only are we going to have a look at a couple of tulips, we're going to have a look at a Corsican-made French knife called the Au-Sabot Vendetta, made in Thiers, France. So for all my French-speaking folks out there, I don't speak any French, so if I butchered those names, please forgive me. After all, even though I am Canadian, I am not French-Canadian, so all my friends out there in Quebec, please don't send me any hate mail. Please. All right. Don't forget to subscribe, as well as give me the thumbs up, as well as like. If you like what you saw here, you think I earned it, I'd appreciate it very, very much. Now let's go to the tabletop and let's have a look at this. Oh, by the way, I'm going to put in what this little bugger can do in this video. I'll show you some graphic pictures, so just beware. There's going to be a hole in the leg, and I'll try to put it in the description exactly where it is, so you could perhaps scooch through it. All right, let's have a look here. Okay, so let's have a look. And the reason I'm kind of doing both of these is because they seem to be kind of opposites attract, or not opposites attract. They seem to be quite opposite of each other, and I just thought it was a really, really nice way to show off a couple of these knives. So let's put this one aside here for a second, and let's go have a look at these two Bestech Tulips. Here we go. They're both Kiridashis. And they are, one here is in titanium with M390, and the other one here is 14C28N, and it looks like, I do believe it is G10. Let's go over to my little Bestech knives things. Yes, it is a G10 handle. Now, they both have got little clips on here, and the titanium one here has a milled clip, where it looks like this one here is kind of a press clip. Out of the two clips, I mean, I think the titanium one really is a lot nicer clip. And it's not only nicer because it's titanium, I think it's nicer the way it goes on in most of my pants. Is if you're going to be using this clip, this one seems to go all the way in and holds rather nicely, where this one seems to kind of, it's so tight on there that if you don't really give it a good press, it's not going to go on in your pocket too well, and it's going to be kind of hanging around here. And if you're just absent-minded, you just got to try to throw it in your pocket, and you're not, you won't get it all the way in unless you purposely press this all the way in, and then it has a tendency to fall to your pocket, and that's what did happen to me when I was carrying this around the house. I just kind of absent-mindedly stuck this in my pocket, and it clipped, but not all the way, and it just fell out, and I was looking around for it. I was actually quite freaked out that I couldn't find this for a bit, because it belongs to a really good friend of mine by the name of Jake at Canadian Cutting Edge. He let me borrow a couple of these here when he was down camping, and I told him I would carry them. I didn't tell him I'd cut myself with them, but I told him I'd carry them, do some reviews, and send them back to him, and I certainly hated to lose one, because I know he likes these quite a bit. I, on the other hand, am not as big a fan. So let's go over some of the size on here, and let's do kind of a size comparison. Let's see here. Here we've got a Kangwoo, and you can see that these are basically small knives. And something a little bit more recognizable. Here we go. The Paramilitary 2. This one happens to be in Crewwear and the Canvas Micarta. You can see that they're small. You're looking at an overall length of 4 inches, blade length of 1.5 inches. Your cutting edge is 1.375 an inch, and a blade width is 0.88 of an inch, so not quite a full inch.
This one here is made of Sandvik 14C28N. You've got here, this one here is made of M390, so it's got, both of them have got really, really quite good steels. Here, let's kind of put these aside here. Both of them have got really, really excellent steels. But with the M390 being a super steel and the 14C28 just being a really, really good budget steel. All right, handle length is 2.375 inches with a handle width of 0.875, which is going to be, you know, not quite an inch there too as well. Handle thickness is 0.42, which is half an inch here. And, you know, it is a little bit chunky for the size of them, that's for sure. Let's see here. Handle material is G10, and here we've got titanium, which is a blue anodized titanium. And it's actually really kind of an iridescent blue. It's actually quite nice. The weight is 1.4 ounces on the G10, and on the other one is 1.65. So the titanium is slightly heavier than the G10, but I mean, when you put them in your hands, you really can't tell that much of a difference. There's a little bit of a difference, but not that much. And both of them, I do believe, didn't come that sharp, but Jake sharpened them up, and he did a fantastic job. Like as my thigh can attend to, these are both razor sharp right now, and it doesn't look like it takes too much to put a really, really sharp edge on them. There's not a lot of blade length there to go. Both of them are flippers, but they are a little bit different flippers here. So this one here is more of a top end flipper, and this one here is more of a front end flipper, right? And they both can be kind of grabbed from the top, but they both rock it out. The action on both of them is excellent. This one happens to be a liner lock, or this one happens to be a slip joint. So, I mean, this is not going to be a real kind of, you know, stabbing knife. Either one of them aren't going to be real, you know, stabby stabbertons, but they are going to be, I think, really great kind of box openers. But let's just see here. They're both are made by Bestech Knives. Au-Sabot Vendetta is the designer, and they're both made in China. So they are both excellent little Kiridashi style blades. And they're just going to be there. I think these are great kind of fifth pocket knives. They're not, I don't think these are everyday carry. I mean, they call them best use everyday carry, but I think these are more of a, I know that Jake was saying that you can carry a small knife on an airplane, and this seems to be a small knife, but it can do lots of damage. I'm going to put that here. You can see what it did to my thigh. The gash was terrible, but they were so sharp that it did not hurt at all. And just to show you, anybody out there, how I did this, it's dumb, so dumb. Sometimes you can grab these types of top end flippers and you can kind of just rub them against something and they'll pop open, right? And because the blade is, and that's what I did, and because the blade is so short and so sharp, as I kind of took it and I put it against my thigh like this, and see how it just pops open like that? But it popped open and it caught like this, opened all the way up, and then it ran across my thigh, and it just blew a hole right through my thigh. That's how the idiot cut himself with a 1.5 inch bladed Kiridashi Bestech Tulip. All right, so they seem like they're just excellent fifth pocket knives. I've got no worries with them whatsoever. I don't know if you're going to be doing, I mean, you know, you're opening up cardboard boxes, you're opening up letters, you're doing some minor cutting around the house. I think then they're absolutely excellent. But as an everyday carry overall, I mean, I think just the size does them a lot of hurt to them. Plus, the other thing is they're talking an absolute lot of money for both of these. Now, this one here, well, let's talk USD here. This is $47 at Blade HQ, and this is $126 at Blade HQ. In Canada, I think you're looking at about $69 here for the G10 and $169 here at Warriors and Wonders for this Kiridashi, this little Bestech Tulip, and I just think that is a lot of money. You can get an awful lot of knives out there for $170. I think you really have to have a need for these little small tiny blades in order to do that. And I mean, and I think if you're a big fan of Au-Sabot Vendetta, you collect his knives, or you're a fun collector of little small knives, maybe it's worth it to you. But to me, I just don't see $170 value in here, even though they are nice little knives. They cut, as I can attest to. and they're fun. I mean, they're not crazy like flipperific where they're the fidget factor is crazy on them. The ergonomics on them are, I mean, they're different. I mean, you have to really be careful. See that how I just kind of, you know, they're so small. It's hard to get a serious grip on them without kind of, you know, my hands are just so big that, you know, if I needed this, most of the time I'm going to cut like this with it, and I'm going to cut like that, and that's where this one will really do me a lot of, you know, hamper, because it'll be pressing closed quite a bit. I definitely would look at something with the lock on it. I don't think that's the slip joint that I'd want to have. And just because they are so damn razor blade sharp, you have to be careful with them. Yeah, so I mean, I just don't think that I would be a fan of these to the point where I would drop, you know, $220 plus Canadian on these two knives. That's just my opinion. I mean, to me, they're a great fifth pocket secondary carry or a light duty carry for the office. I just think we're talking too much money, and I'm going to give them a 5 out of 10. Both of them. Probably, you know what? Let's go. This one's a 6 out of 10. This one's a 5 out of 10 because it does, even though it's got way better materials, it looks quite nice. You need yourself a damn good lock on there. I think to make this crazy functional, there's just not enough spring retention in there to make this, I think, super safe in my opinion. And you know what? I could be jaded because of the fact that I cut myself, but hey, like I said, the idiot detector went off on me pretty strong, so take that in consideration. So let's put those aside and let's look at another knife here, which I think is an excellent kind of work of art knife. And that's kind of how I would look at this one too as well. Now, this one here happens to be the Au-Sabot Vendetta. Now, this knife here is this is a Corsican knife built in Thiers, France. And it is a handmade knife. These aren't knives that are made off a production line that you're going to be getting, you know, the same thing, you know, bang, bing, 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 as it rolls off. You're going to have some, you know, fella named probably, I'm not going to say Pierre because that's a little bit too on the nose, but you get some guy named Jean-Jacques who decides that he wants to make himself a knife that day, and he works at the Au-Sabot factory, and he churns out this in Vendetta, and he does a great job, but there are some things that tell that this is a handmade knife. One of the things here, and let's quickly go through, give you a size comparison with this one too. Let's put the old... let's put the old... paramilitary tube beside it. You can see it's quite a fair sized knife. You know what? It's got quite a fair sized blade. As you can see, it's not a crazy thick knife, but it does have some size to it. Now, the steel on this one is 12C27N. Here, let's go with some dimensions here. Vendetta Corsica. Blade length is 86 millimeters, which breaks down to about 3.5 inches. I think 75 mils is 3 inches. So, like I said, it's an inch, three and a bit inches, 17 inches, and then wide, then 2.4 mils thick. So, I mean, it's got a little bit of thickness to it, but it is, you know, it's a slender, very pointy knife for sure. Now the handle on here is actually two-tone, like it's got a stainless steel, and this happens to be actually white buffalo bone. So, and it is totally pin construction. You've got 3 pins in the back, and then you have a center pin here. Now I don't know if that center pin is just pinning the bolsters on it, or if that's also where your pivot is. Now you can see here, I think that's probably where your pivot is. And it does have a really strong back spring here too as well. Now the total length of this is 200 millimeters and a weight of 88 grams. And I do believe that is ounces. So I did not look it up. Come on, guys. The rest of the world is metric. Let's get on board with that. All right. And it is completely handmade. Now, I tried this out a little bit, and the biggest thing I tried on it is cardboard, and it does an excellent job cutting cardboard. Once again, I don't think this was sharpened from the factory too sharp. But I mean, I took it and I gave it just a few runs on a stone, and I stropped it a little bit, and it just went right to a razor right away, and it cuts cardboard like a dream. I mean, so if you're looking for an inexpensive knife to just sit there and cut cardboard, this kind of would be it. That fully frac ground blade, 2.3 millimeters thick, so it's not crazy thick, thin behind the edge, and it tapers down to an excellent little point. This is a great cardboard slicer, and it is one of my favorite things to cut is cardboard. Now, let's have a look at some of the other things where you can tell that this is a handmade knife. You can see that your grind here right off your ricasso is quite a bit uneven. You can see that there is some little bit of, how do you say it? There's some not completely flat steel there. It looks like they kind of maybe just kind of pounded that without grinding that properly. You can see, and you can't really notice here off the bat, but when you have this knife in your hand, you can see that there is some sunlight through one of the bolsters, and then on the back too there's some sunlight through one of the springs too as well. And this spring here though is hand chiseled, so it is a nice little design on the back there. But speaking of the spring is crazy. Lots of tension on there. I mean, there's no half stop. It looks like it's not really a third of a stop, but when you do break the spring tension, it kind of sits open here at, let's just say, I don't know what that would be. What's the opposite of 45 degrees? Some trigonometry expert can tell me there. I know 115 degrees or so. It sits open like that. It's quite, and then when you do go to close it, don't slam it shut, because there is no stop pin inside there, and you'll end up, and this is something that I probably wouldn't have noticed right away. I would have noticed using this knife over and over, slamming it together. But Jake actually told me, be careful when you close this knife. If you let it slam it shut, it hits the backspacer on the inside and it rolls the edge over. So, that happened to him. I just try not to let them slam to begin with, but that's one thing I would have probably found out very, very quickly. Now, this isn't. So now it looks like the design on here, you can get these a couple of different ways. You can get them here in white bone, and you can also get them in olive wood, and they are an excellent little knife. Now it looks like this is kind of designed to, place your hand like this, and this is almost like a little bit of a guard, I suppose, or, that's what it seems to be. But I mean, if you're using this as a guard and to stop your hand from sliding up, and you're doing any sort of piercing with this knife, even though it's got a really, really hard back spring, if you do pierce it the wrong way and this thing closes on you, and there's such a tough blade. I just hate grabbing this with my bare hands. And if you decide that you're going to close this by accident, the way your fingers are, you're going to lop off a finger if that thing lets go on you. So do not use this for a whole lot of piercing. Mostly this is going to be a slicer. Probably be an excellent cheese slicer too as well, but I know it cuts cardboard like a mofo. There's nothing wrong with it that way. Now $59 for this gets you an imported knife that's handmade, that I think actually looks quite nice. I mean, one of the things about this knife, the reason I asked Jake to drop this one off, is I just really liked the look of it. I mean, it's just kind of your old style classical look. Now France, they did a lot of switchblades back in the day, and this is very, very reminiscent of a switchblade to me. Just the shape of that blade. They have a lot of knives. Now, if you look at, I think the one of the most famous French knives that just absolutely Opinels, you'll see that this is very similar to a shape of an Opinel style kind of blade. That seems to be kind of the long, slender, seems to be the way the French like their knives. And maybe I'm just generalizing. That seems to be all the knives that make it over here into Canada or into North America. And a lot of that, I think they use these for a lot of food prep. And this is an excellent. I sliced a couple of tomatoes with this, and no problem whatsoever. I think the food prep use on this is absolutely excellent. As an everyday carry item, I mean, I just don't see it being that way for me, because I just dislike how much this back spring is so tough. And I mean, It just takes one little slip to it. You know, there's no thumb stud, there's no nail nick, there's nothing to grab a hold of this. And if you just let go by accident, it's going to slam shut on you, or it's going to nick your finger and cut you pretty bad. So, I mean, as just a good looking knife, work of art, I mean, I think this is probably a 7 out of 10. As a functional piece of cutlery, as an everyday carry item for me, I'm going to give this probably a 4 out of 10. Yeah, so even though I like it as art, I don't really like it as a piece of cutlery. All right, so I hope you guys had some fun looking at these, enjoying these with me too as well. Because I mean, this hobby is not just about taking these and using these as tools. A lot of the way I purchase knives is just how they look. I mean, we're a visual society in a lot of ways, and I think that these knives all look excellent, but as everyday functional tools, they let me down a little bit, and that's my opinion. So, please stay safe out there. Please keep your stick on the ice, the shiny side up. This is the Big Canucker, saying adios.